Hey everyone, tonight, I want you to step with me into the Sahara beyond the tourist maps and the camel caravans, into a realm where sand dunes whisper secrets older than the first pharaoh's tomb. My name is Marcus Ellington. Once, I was a respected archaeologist with grants and tenure. Now, I am the lunatic they whisper about at faculty parties, the man who chases ghosts under the desert sun. It began 3 months ago. A battered, leather-bound journal appeared on my doorstep in Cairo. No note, no sender, just my name scrawled across cracked hide. Inside were hand-drawn maps, cryptic symbols, and the obsessive ramblings of a man convinced he had found a forgotten temple buried beneath the Libyan Sahara, place where the stars fell to earth and taught man to build empires. Scholars would call it lunacy. To me, it smelled like redemption. I sold off my last inheritance, my father's antique watch and my mother's old townhouse, and bribed a Tuareg guide named Hassan. He was reluctant from the start, spitting each time he pronounced the coordinates. My grandfather warned me, he said as we loaded fuel drums and water canisters onto battered Land Cruisers. There are places the desert keeps for itself. Men who look for them come back blind. If they come back at all, his warnings didn't touch me. Failure isn't effective and aesthetic for fear. On the 7th day, we lost our compass to a sandstorm. On the 8th, the desert finally yielded a clue. An outcrop of black stone rising like a dead tooth from a sea of gold. Strange grooves ran along its baselines too deliberate to be natural, half buried under centuries of drifting dunes. At sunset, under a sky bruised purple and red, I knelt with Hassan beside that outcrop, brushing away grit with bare fingers. Beneath the sand, ancient carvings revealed themselves, jagged symbols part cuneiform, part hieroglyph, yet none matching anything from Sumer, Egypt, or any culture I'd studied. Hassan's hands trembled as he traced a sun disk flanked by winged figures. We found the entrance, an hour later, a stone door so perfectly balanced it yielded to my pry bar with a sigh. Exhaling air colder than any desert night, Hassan begged to camp and enter at dawn. I laughed. Dawn had waited centuries for us. The night would wait too. We squeezed through the opening, our headlamps flickering against walls unlike any tomb I'd ever seen. Instead of sandstone or limestone, the tunnel was lined with smooth, seamless panels, dull silver in the torchlight but warm to the touch. Every few feet, faint glyphs glowed blue under my fingertips, responding like living skin. The passage sloped downward, steeper than any burial shaft. We descended in silence except for Hassan's whispered prayers. Even he couldn't find words when the tunnel opened into a vast, circular chamber, a place so impossibly massive it seemed carved out by titans, not men. At its heart stood a monolith, a single stone slab taller than 2 men, covered top to bottom in the same shifting symbols. They moved, yes, moved like ink in water, rearranging as if to greet me personally. Hassan tugged my sleeve, eyes wide and wet. We must leave. Now, please. But I couldn't hear him over the pulsing hum in my skull. I stepped closer, fingers outstretched. The moment my skin brushed that cold, humming stone, the chamber bloomed into life. Lines of light raced along the walls, painting constellations I didn't recognize, maps of a night sky uncharted by any telescope on Earth. I saw shapes moving within those stars, tall, graceful beings, silver-skinned, their hands cradling primitive humans like children. A thunderclap of silence swallowed my mind. Then darkness, no stars, no chamber, just my name echoing in an inhuman tongue. When I opened my eyes, the monolith still pulsed gently. Hassan was gone, vanished as if the earth had reclaimed him. Alone, I realized the whispers in the sand hadn't lied. I wasn't just in a temple. I was standing inside a question mark left behind by something or someone that never truly left this world. The silence in that stone womb pressed against my skull like a vice. I forced myself to stand, knees cracking, throat raw from the desert air and my own shallow breathing. Hassan's name clawed at my lips, but only my echo answered. Somewhere in the chamber's depths, a low hum reverberated, a living sound that seemed to pulse with my heartbeat. I had to find him, or so I told myself. Truth is, A voice deep inside already knew Hassan was no longer part of this equation. He'd been swallowed by the temple, or maybe by what lay beneath it. Still, I pushed on, because turning back would mean admitting I was just another madman chasing hallucinations through the desert. My flashlight swept across the chamber walls. The constellations flickered and dimmed as if they recognized my retreating curiosity. Near the monolith, a narrow slit had opened in the wall, an invitation, or a trap. I couldn't tell, but staying put felt worse. I squeezed through the passage, my shoulders scraping smooth metal that radiated a gentle warmth. Beyond lay a corridor unlike any tomb or ruin I'd crawled through in Egypt, Mesopotamia, or anywhere else. This was not a burial site. It felt engineered. Panels hummed when I brushed past them. Some walls pulsed faintly, as if alive with a heartbeat all their own. At a bend in the passage I stumbled upon something that made every academic bone in my body ache with wonder and dread. Murals etched into the walls, scenes of humans kneeling before towering figures with elongated skulls and delicate spindly fingers. Some murals showed stars raining from the sky. Others depicted fields of wheat growing beneath discs floating above the soil. One panel showed a human woman with her belly glowing bright, flanked by two of the being's hands outstretched as if blessing or claiming the life inside her. I felt bile crawl up my throat. This wasn't a temple. It was a record etched in metal, a message left in plain sight for any fool who dug deep enough. The Anunnaki, the sky gods, the watchers, they weren't myths, they were wardens, and we were the crop. The passage ended abruptly at a chamber so large my flashlight beam dissolved into shadows before it reached the far wall. At its center floated a crystal coffin, if coffin was even the word. Suspended inside was a figure, tall and fragile-looking, its skin iridescent like oil on water. Tubes or roots connected it to the chamber walls, pulsating with a soft, organic glow. As I stepped closer, the humming rose in pitch. Symbols flickered above the crystal, dancing in the air like fireflies caught in a magnetic storm. I reached out, tedious that I am, and the symbols flared, forming into crude, shifting English. "You are not ready." The voice was not a sound. It burrowed straight into my mind, cold and absolute. The figure in the crystal stirred. Its eyelids flickered like storm clouds behind thin glass. I fell to my knees as a flood of images ripped through my consciousness. Alien cities orbiting binary stars. Ships the size of continents drifting between solar systems. Battles fought in the void long before Earth was dust. And then, humans primitive, frightened, lifted from the mud by hands not their own. I saw ancient architects instructing men to carve stones weighing hundreds of tons, aligning pyramids with Orion's belt, bearing secrets beneath desert sands while feeding our ancestors stories of gods and monsters. The voice pressed harder. "You are a seed. You are not meant to bloom." My body convulsed. Blood trickled from my nose, tasting like copper and static. I felt the being's loneliness, a caretaker abandoned eons ago when its kin fled the collapse of their star. It stayed behind, asleep in crystal, waiting for an order that never came. The chamber's walls rippled. Panels flickered to life, displaying star maps, genetic sequences, the spiral DNA helix dancing like fire. And behind it all, the steady thrum of an engine buried beneath centuries of silence. Somewhere behind me, I heard the scuffle of feet, Hassan's voice crying my name. It was real, or maybe a hallucination shaped by my guilt. I forced myself to stand, veins buzzing with an energy that was not mine. The figure in the crystal opened its eyes at last to black wells reflecting constellations I could not name. It spoke one final word, in a tone that cracked my soul. "Awaken." The chamber exploded with light. I didn't run, because there was nowhere left to run. For a heartbeat or a century I existed nowhere. There was no chamber, no desert, no name called Marcus Ellington. There was only the raw hum of something ancient and patient and impossibly vast. When my senses clawed back, I was lying face down on the cold metal floor, chest heaving, ears ringing with the echo of that final word, "Awaken." The chamber was alive now, panels flared with pulsating glyphs, swirling constellations, and streams of data that no human eye was ever meant to read. The crystal coffin stood empty. The caretaker, whatever it had been, was gone, leaving nothing but a thin mist that coiled and hissed before vanishing into vents along the floor. I staggered to my feet, my legs trembling under a weight that wasn't entirely physical. Images still flickered at the edge of my vision, star systems, DNA strands twisting in the dark, and a single notion seared into my mind: we are not the first, and we won't be the last. A shout cut through the static fog in my brain. Hassan's voice, this time unmistakably real. I turned just as he stumbled through the slit in the wall, eyes wild with terror. His skin was coated in a fine sheen of dust, and his lips cracked from the desert's thirst. "Marcus," he gasped, "it's collapsing." The Sandits, he pointed behind him. Even from here, I heard it, a deep groan rolling through the structure like thunder trapped in stone. The temple, if it was ever just a temple, was sealing itself shut. Whatever we'd awoken had no use for a pair of bumbling humans digging through its crypt. It would bury itself again, wrapping its secrets back in dunes that drift for centuries. Hassan grabbed my arm and pulled. For a moment, I resisted, still drunk on the visions, the taste of something larger than mankind. Part of me wanted to stay, to become part of the myth. But survival is a stronger instinct than wonder. We sprinted through the breathing corridor. Metal walls pulsed in and out, trying to crush us like an immune system expelling a virus. A beam fell, narrowly missing Hassan's skull. Dust and ancient air clogged my lungs. I no longer cared if the desert killed me, just didn't he want to be entombed alongside the stars? When we burst through the stone door, the sun above was a white disk lost behind a wall of sand. A storm raged, born or summoned by whatever lay beneath. The outcrop behind us shuddered, cracked, and began to slide under an avalanche of golden waves. Hassan shoved me into the passenger seat of the nearest land cruiser, yelling prayers as he twisted the key. The engine roared, tires digging desperately for traction as the first dunes buried the rock we'd defiled. I looked back once. Through the swirling sand, I thought I saw shapes stall, thin silhouettes drifting effortlessly across the dunes, watching us flee with eyes black as a starless sky. Back in Cairo, the world mocked me. Professors called me a fraud, a drunk, a relic peddler spinning desert ghost stories for a book deal that never came. Hassan returned to his tribe, vowing never to cross the Libyan border again. He never answered my calls. The journal that started it all vanished. So did my savings, my reputation, my sanity, if you ask certain colleagues. Yet some nights, when the wind rattles my apartment windows and the desert calls from half a continent away, I feel the hum beneath my floorboards, a vibration only I can sense, like a heartbeat hidden under centuries of sand. I know that under those dunes, the caretaker is no longer asleep. Maybe it waits for others like me, curious, desperate, willing to listen when the sand whispers. Or, be it has already left, drifting back to the stars to find another seedbed for its kind. Either way, remember this: when you hear the desert wind speak your name at night, don't listen. Not unless you be ready to trade everything you are for truths no human mind was built to hold. Because the desert forgets nothing, and neither do they.